people don't necessarily know that this doesn't have to be a career. And this can be something that is, an add-on to your life, a fantastic add-on to your life.
Welcome to Flying BC, a podcast about the people, planes, and aviation adventures in British Columbia and Canada, with your host, Warwick Patterson.
Hello and welcome back to Flying BC. I've been suffering the joys of aircraft ownership for the past couple weeks, as I took my Maul into the shop for a simple oil change and 2 weeks later it's still under the knife. But hopefully I'll have that back soon for some spring fun. In the meantime, I recently announced the dates for this year's Brown Bag Flyout series, coming this summer to Sechelt, Princeton, Vanderhoof, and Golden, with some camping nights mixed in. Check out the details on flyingbc.com and the BCGA website, bcaviation.ca. And if you're interested in spending a long weekend at Aviation Adventure Camp, featuring guest speakers, survival and mountain flying seminars, all in a stunning backcountry setting, well, save the date for July 31st to August 2nd. This long weekend is going to be limited to under 20 people, so if you want to be first in line when it comes time to sign up, I encourage you to go to flyingbc.com and sign up to the mailing list. And I promise I won't spam you, but you won't want to miss this. On to this episode. In North America, we enjoy a freedom of the skies that is the envy of the rest of the world. And a lot of that is due to strength in numbers and advocacy efforts from organizations like COPA, the Canadian Owners and Pilots Association. There's a lot of change and new faces coming into the COPA head office in the past few months. And as a member and regional director, I'm excited to see the organization revitalized. So I asked COPA's new president and CEO, Christine Gervais, to come on the show to talk about what COPA has up its sleeve for the future and what she sees as the organization's strengths and opportunities. Whether you're a COPA member or not, this episode is worth a listen. Well, Christine, thank you for joining me on the show today.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. I brought you on as COPA's president and CEO because you've been there for about 9 months now. And I thought we could kind of use this as almost a State of the Union address or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. And just kind of tell people what COPA is all about and why it's important to be involved with COPA if you're a pilot or owner or aviation enthusiast in Canada. But I wanted to start off with a little bit about your background because you started off. I was doing some research, and you actually studied biology, was it, in university? And then was aviation on your radar then, or was that an unexpected career switch?
So no, so aviation was definitely not on my radar at that time. My original plan was actually to become a doctor. And at that point, the only plane I'd ever been on were the ones that took me down south for a holiday. And it really never really occurred to me that one day I could be driving one of those planes. It wasn't really until the end of my third year during a summer job. I was working at a summer camp with kids, and we ended up at the Aviation Museum. And I stood outside and I was looking at the small planes take off and land. And that piqued my interest. So I got very curious, and it was enough for me to actually look through the phone book because, yes, at the time, I needed a phone book to find phone numbers. The internet had not even been invented yet. So I found a phone book for the Ottawa Flying Club and the Rockcliffe Flying Club. I booked an intro flight at both those places, and I was hooked from that moment. And at that moment, Canada lost a potential doctor. And, I contributed that to the day that I really started the greatest adventure of my life. I took the next year to earn my private pilot's license. I wanted to make sure that this was really where I was going to go with my life. And obviously it was. Every flight that I took convinced me that this is definitely what I felt like I wanted to do every day. Didn't feel like work at all. So after I earned my private pilot's license, I enrolled into the professional pilot program that the Ottawa Flying Club offered at the time. And while I was finishing off my commercial time, I was given the opportunity by this lovely man called David Coburn, who was a COPA member at the time, to finish my hours on his Aronka tampon float, which was not far from Ottawa. So I ended up doing 50 hours on his plane, which was enough at the time to land me a job, my first job as a float plane pilot in the Parry Sound area. And started flying a Cessna 180 and moved on to the Beaver 3 months later. And that was my favorite plane ever, was flying that Beaver. It became an extension of me. I felt like sometimes just landing in these lakes with no one except me and the loons, sometimes watching the loons botch a landing. It was lots of stories, lots of adventures. I think definitely too long for this podcast. I could keep talking forever. But from there, I moved on to survey flying. So I did end up flying for a couple of years in Africa, almost a year in South America. I did fly in the Arctic. And again, those are definitely stories to share over a pint or two. And then from there, I went to corporate flying, which to me was not as interesting. I wasn't as fascinated, and I ended up through those experiences, though. I ended up with the love of my life, which is now my 16-year-old son, who's my pride and joy. And I guess as I found myself as a single mom with a baby on the way, I looked at other ways to earn a living, but still keeping a foot inside the aviation world. And that's when I started my journey towards air traffic control.
Yeah, and you spent, 15 years or something at NAV Canada as an air traffic controller and then in the operations side?
Yeah, so I was an air traffic controller in the Ottawa Control Tower for close to 10 years. And after that, I moved over to the management side of things in the operations. First, in the National Operations Center. So the National Operations Center is the coordination center for air traffic management across the country, and with the FAA as well. So it's sort of getting an overview of what's happening in the country, what can potentially happen in the country, especially at the four majors, planning flow times, and coordinating with the FAA. So that was a very interesting position. And then I was given an opportunity to go to a different management position, level of service. It was Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I had never done that ever. So I had no idea what that would entail. And I have to say, it's really hard to go back to not 9 to 5 after you've done it. But to me, that was definitely a new concept. And that's where I learned all of my management skills. And that's really when I learned all about COPA through our, COPA is a stakeholder in NAV Canada. And that's really, I got to know Bernard, and I immediately felt a connection. I immediately felt at home when I was having our discussions with COPA through our different level of service reviews.
Cool. And level of service studies are a hot topic right now around Canada, especially with COVID. NAV Canada is doing a lot of them. I guess judging where they can make cutbacks, where they need to keep service. What's involved with a level of service study? What is that all about?
So during my time there, basically NAV Canada does have a level of service policy. It is available online to the public, and they refer to that whenever, in order to do a level of service assessment, it has to fit within that policy document. And it clearly states that money can't be a reason to evaluate a site for the requirement of the service at the specific site. It's clearly stated in there. And basically what it does is, the aviation world is a fluid world. It's a world in motion. It's not constant. So, the idea was to make sure that the proper level of service was being offered at the proper sites across the country. Sometimes it meant closing certain sites and taking that manpower and putting it somewhere else where it was required. For instance, when I was there, we opened a tower in Red Deer and we reopened the tower in Mirabel because, there was increase in traffic at the time there. And then there was such a decrease in the amount of traffic in Buttonville because, of all the talks of the airport closing and becoming condominiums and stuff like that. Everybody at the time sort of got out of Buttonville. So there was no requirement there. It was assessed that there was no necessity for air traffic services to be there. And so NAV Canada does this review constantly over and over. They want to have their services where it's required, and it's not always, it doesn't stay the same. It's not stagnant all the time. Obviously, the four majors are usually probably going to be the same. I think what's different this time is that they're very much stretching the usage of their policies. They're using the fact that there's no overnight services or barely any overnight traffic, and there hasn't been over a period of time. Yet there's no mention of that being a criteria in their level of service document. So I think that right now, as much as they're saying that it has nothing to do with budget cuts, I don't think that they can say to the rest of the world that it doesn't, because the rest of the world sort of knows that it is. Not saying that that's not right. I mean, they're losing billions of dollars every day, every week. Millions of dollars every day and every week. So obviously they have to do something, but at the same time, safety shouldn't be compromised. And I think by letting go of all of the controllers that they've already let go, everybody that was in training was let go. Even those that were, they've let go of many of the controllers inside the centers by combining sectors because they could right now. But when things ramp up, things are going to change.
Yeah, we already had a shortage before this, and then all those people are gone. So
yeah. So it's not uncommon, for those who participated in the stakeholder interviews with NAV Canada. It is something that they say they do all the time, and it is. It really, really is. There's a department that does this. That was the department that I was working in. But it was never based on whether or not the company needed to save some money. It really had everything to do with, the fact that certain sites change and some of them don't see as much activity as they used to for whatever reason, and other sites do. And now, those resources would be needed elsewhere.
Cool. So it's interesting to hear that COPA is a stakeholder in NAV Canada. COPA's been around a long time. And so COPA, you guys have a very active role with Transport Canada, NAV Canada, the government. Are they coming to COPA for feedback and input on these things? Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially during the ADSB mandate. And that's kind of where my relationship with Bernard, the past president, no relation to me. That's where the relations developed. And when I was writing or evaluating the requirement for ADSB mandate in Canada, it became very clear to me that we could not impose this on general aviation. And there was never any consideration in that plan to implement ADSB below 12,500 feet where GA flies, because until we find an affordable way for GA to equip with ADSB, it's not a reasonable request. It's just not.
Right.
So yes, so COPA to NAV Canada, when I was there, which wasn't that long ago, was very much at the forefront of the stakeholders.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So then about 9 months ago, right in the middle of a pandemic, you took the helm of COPA, became the president and CEO. I guess what attracted you to that role, and how was the first 9 months gone? You were kind of tasked with a few projects right off the bat, weren't you?
Yes. So, that was a little bit crazy. I'll admit, starting a new career in the middle of a pandemic. To be fair, I did the application prior to even knowing that the world was about to change dramatically. We did go through, a rigorous process. There were several hours worth of interviewing. I can assure you that your committee was very, very thorough. What attracted me to the position, to be honest, was being able to return back to the other side of the mic. I started my career as an aviator. My fondest memories are flying, my little airplanes. Here I was being given the opportunity to bring everything that I have learned over the years, from both the airspace side and bringing all of the connections that I had made, all of the networking efforts that I had done, and come over to this side and really make an impact on a world that, not just captivated me, but captured me from day one. So, who could resist that, really? The first 9 months for me, I still think that I'm in a honeymoon period when it comes to the world that I find myself in. Yes, I did have and still do, and will always have some tasks that need to be done. And I think the first real task that I had to do when I took the reins was to really put a COPA in a good place financially, and to put our budget on the plus side instead of the negative side. I also had to, get the in-house affairs in order and, align our staffing with our strategic goals. And then, one of the things, another priority for me at the beginning was to find a way to plan to incorporate the RPAS pilot community into the COPA family. We're all going to be sharing the same skies. We all need to learn the same rules. And I think COPA is in a great position to merge those two worlds together because they will inevitably meet at some point in time. It kept me pretty busy for the first 6 months. I'm pretty sure you're going to ask me a little later on what the plans are for the following year. So I'll save it for then.
Yeah, I feel like your background in aviation is almost sets you up perfectly for this role at COPA, because the people we need to try and capture are those people who didn't really think about aviation, but they see something and it sparks their imagination. Like, we need to kind of capture those people and try and bring them into the fold and keep them going on that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key is definitely to balance out, the serious work that we need to do as far as advocacy is concerned, and why is it important for aviators to be COPA members? Simple reason is that there's strength in numbers. There are 30,000 GA pilots out there. Half of them are COPA members. We contribute billions to the Canadian economy. Billions. So, GA flying has to remain possible, and it has to remain manageable. And, in order for that to happen, or to continue to happen, is that we need to be heard. So the more voices that we represent, the louder our voices are, and the harder we are to overlook. So, and GA isn't just private pilots. It's not just pilot owners. It's student pilots, it's cadets, it's soarers, it's community aerodromes, it's aircraft mechanics, it's RPAS operators. There's so many more that have a vested interest in keeping GA alive and well. So, we do contribute over $9 billion to the Canadian economy. According to a study that COPA actually had someone, an external consultant do less than 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And, flying in Canada shouldn't just be a privilege for the few, but it should be a right for everyone.
And we are pretty lucky in Canada. You go to a lot of places in Europe or even like New Zealand and Australia, and GA is fairly strict, and it's hard to find space to do it, and it costs a lot of money. So we we definitely need to preserve that freedom to fly here, as COPA's mandate is. So,
Yep.
So you talked about advocacy a little bit. That's always going to be a big part of what COPA does. Whether that's licensing and medical issues or airport issues, things like that. Can you talk a bit about where COPA fits into the picture in terms of advocacy, and what tools it has to work with when it comes to that?
Absolutely. So so when I came over to COPA, I brought with me the relationships that I had with the regulator, with Transport Canada, and with NAV Canada as well. And I think that we've worked really hard at establishing the credibility of COPA within the regulator. And I think now is a good time to start establishing COPA's credibility with, community aerodrome operators as well. We need to, many of them don't understand what we can contribute to their communities, what we bring to their communities, the value that we bring to their communities. We're not just noisemakers. That is literally not who we are. And I think that we need to start advocating, and we need to take a proactive approach within all of these small communities where there are smaller community aerodromes or even airports, and start letting people know, what the value that we bring to them, even before they think that we're a problem. I think a lot of times, we're seen as a problem because a lack of understanding of who we are and what we bring. And I think that's going to be a huge effort on COPA's part this year, is to really develop that relationship with the, with the people who own the land that we land on. So it's important for them to understand who we are. And we're going to try really hard at doing that. We've also, been working really hard, especially during COVID, with all of these changing regulations all the time. We've established a relationship with the Director General of Civil Aviation, and he's basically on my speed dial now. I consult with him on a regular basis, and every time we do get a message from them, we have been trying really hard to convey that message to our members. And I strongly, urge anyone who has an issue of any kind to definitely, you can reach out to your regional director. Absolutely. That's why they're there, and that's why they're elected by the members. And they in turn bring the issue to us, or, they can come directly to us. And that's, we have Peter Campbell, who is our new director of external relations, who has a great relationship with the medical department at Civil Aviation. Literally sends him email, weekly with pilots, our membership that has not received, word for their licensing, for their medicals, and we have a great turnaround. And I have heard people say, well, we shouldn't have to reach out, and I'm like, maybe we shouldn't have to reach out, but we can reach out. And we're not reaching out for the majority; we're reaching out for a minority. And the fact that we can do it is a great thing. Same thing with just pilot licensing for flight testing or for writing examinations. Peter has established a great relationship with Transport Canada. They are listening to us. They are paying attention. We will have a seat at the table at the TRAN committee. So we're putting ourselves in a very good place to continue our advocacy efforts and to have a seat at the table as, one of the big associations in terms of the aviation industry. Yeah.
Yeah, there's all sorts of little wins that go on behind the scenes. Like somebody has a medical issue, but we can advocate on their behalf. And I think there was recently an older pilot who couldn't get insurance, but he was a known person with lots of experience, and he was able to get that sorted out through COPA. So,
well, exactly. And that's what we're here for. And it's not the majority of people who are having these issues. It's a minority of people. When we think about, the thousands and thousands of insurers out there, It's really just a handful that need our assistance, and that's what we're here for. And we do have those relationships, and we do try to make it work. So, absolutely, we definitely push for our members to get what is rightfully, what is the right.
Yeah, and I think it's important that I've been a director for 6 months or something like that, and you see comments online sometimes, people going, well, where's COPA on this situation? And people need to realize that COPA is not all seeing, all knowing. Like if you have a local regional issue, you need to reach out to your regional director or to headquarters.
Absolutely. We try to get involved as much as we can in as much as we can. But like you said, we don't have eyes everywhere. There's literally only 6 people that work in the office. We're not AOPA. We're not EAA. They have hundreds of employees. We rely on our membership and our directorship to bring us these issues that are important that we can focus on. So we heavily rely on that in order to decide where we're going to focus our work.
Yeah, and as a member-driven organization too, it's you get out what you put in. So
exactly, yeah.
So we talked a little bit about some of the advocacy wins that have happened. What are some of the major things that COPA has been involved in recently that have really set the stage nationally? Like COPA often gets involved in things that set precedents or could be in danger of setting precedents that's not correct. So those are the ones COPA really gets involved in. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we're involved in right now that we're helping with is a few of our members want to build an aerodrome, and they've met all of the qualifications. They've done their due diligence. They've followed the letter of the law, and due to a political, campaign from a former transport minister, who basically denied the request, not on the basis of the Aeronautics Act. We found it important to help them in their fight with, even, the people who work for the minister recommended that, they open their aerodrome. So for us, denying an airport to open on the basis of opinion is not okay. And if we allow that to happen, then, that can happen across the country. That, a political person can say, don't worry, this isn't going to happen. And it does everything that they can in order that it doesn't happen. And it's not according to the Aeronautic Act. So we fought really hard for the changes in the Aeronautic Act, and it should be implemented properly. So that's one of the fights that we're contributing to. We also have requested to have a seat at the table in the discussions for post-COVID recovery in the aviation industry, because if we're not at the table, we're going to be forgotten. And like I mentioned earlier, we're a huge chunk of the aviation industry in Canada. Maybe not in the sense that, we're not airline carriers, we're not employed by the airlines, but we still contribute. We participate we contribute financially in different ways to the aviation community. And, if we're not part of these conversations, landing fees at airports are going to increase. And we've seen that across the country, sometimes up to 400% landing fees are increasing. This is going to kill general aviation. It's going to kill the community aerodrome that's trying to impose these fees because they need to recover somehow. And so we need to be part of those discussions to make that heard and understood. And we're working really hard to be part of those discussions.
Yeah, I just saw a big stimulus package announced in the States for aerodromes and GA. So that's the sort of thing we need to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The airlines need support, but also all those little mom and pop AME shops and little
Yeah.
airports. So
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so what's your vision for COPA moving forward, and what are some of your goals in the short term and then maybe in the long term?
Well, obviously, what I mentioned earlier is that there's strength in numbers. So I definitely, one of my focuses is going to be strengthening the numbers of COPA membership and increasing our voice within our stakeholders and our regulator and NAV Canada. I think my predecessor has done a great job at doing that, and I definitely want to continue to do that and to take it even further. And by doing that is by introducing this new RPAS membership. Another big project that we're going to be working on this year is, I've heard COPA flights feel a little bit disengaged. They feel a little bit left to their own. So we're planning, we're planning a program for our COPA flights so that they are engaged and so that they, we're developing a leadership summit for our COPA flights, and that to encourage how to encourage the youth, the younger generation to take part in a COPA flight, the importance of joining a COPA flight, examples on how to organize activities, and including COPA flights in our awards ceremony, to signal out the ones that are working hard at being who they are for COPA. So that's something that we're going to be working towards this year. And of course, we're planning this online event, first time ever. Unfortunately, we had to cancel our in-person event, which was really sad. It would have been my first one, and I was really looking forward to it. But we're not canceling it. We're postponing it to 2022, and we're busy creating a great one-day online event for our members, which hopefully they're going to think it's informative and fun at the same time.
Yeah, so a virtual AGM and sort of virtual fly-in.
Yeah, we're calling it the Virtual National Fly-In and Aviation Exhibition.
Nice. Yeah, and going back to the COPA flights too, I think it's important to empower the COPA flights to reach out to the community and help do some of that outreach and showing the community what's happening at the airport, and that there's value.
Very much at the forefront of our planning early on in the year, as well as modernizing our Discover GA and COPA for Kids program, and introducing a mentorship program. So all of those three programs are going to be rolled into one. They're going to become one. And, we're going to change the structure a little bit, but we definitely want to continue to encourage the COPA for Kids events and, but giving it a modern twist so that we can attract the right people to the event in mass numbers.
Nice. What do you see as COPA's sort of biggest strength, and then what can COPA do better? What would you like to improve?
I think our biggest strength is the enthusiasm that we have, the passion that we have for aviation. I think that's our biggest driver. I think our biggest downfall, and that's definitely something that I'm trying to correct, is we react more than we are proactive. And I really want to focus on being more proactive to issues before they even become issues. We know the things that have been a concern to us in the past. And I think that if we plan well enough, if we have a strategy on government relations, if we have a strategy on advocacy, we can put ourselves in a position where we are proactive and not reactive. And I think that's my vision moving forward with COPA.
Yeah. Not always getting into battles, more just
yeah. No, I'm more of a lover than a fighter. So
perfect. Nice. We talked a little bit about the COPA for kids. What's the key element for strengthening GA for the future in Canada, do you think?
Well, I think it's being more inclusive, definitely, and it's finding new ways to promote who we are. It's going into the schools. I think people think of pilots. There's a lot being done for women in aviation. There's a lot, being done for careers in aviation. People don't necessarily know that this doesn't have to be a career, and this can be something that is, an add-on to your life. A fantastic add-on to your life. And by being part of who we are, by having that strength in numbers, we can continue to fight to keep it affordable and manageable so that it can become an add-on to your life and not, yeah.
Great. Yeah. If you had a request for COPA members or COPA flights around the country, what would it be?
Reach out to us. That's my biggest request to COPA flights. I will attend every single COPA flight meeting that I am invited to. I will never turn it down. I will never be too busy. If it's not myself, I definitely want our COPA flights and our COPA members to get to know Peter Campbell, who is our Director of External Relations. I want them to get to know Sharon Chung, who is our Director for National Programming. They're both incredible additions to COPA. They have the drive, they have the vision. Peter has a background in the military, and he was a RPAF operator for the military. He's been a CFI for the past 12 years. So he's got that passion for us as well. And Sharon has these fantastic ideas on how to make our programming better and more inclusive. So for me, it's, send us your ideas, send us your requests to meet with you so that we can discuss these things. What are the things that concern you the most? What do you want us to be working on? Because at the end of the day, my employer are the members. So if I'm not doing for them what they need, then I'm not doing my job. So that's my biggest request is reach out, talk to us, and invite us to speak with you.
Awesome. Yeah, I kind of got through a lot of the things we wanted to talk about there. Is there anything else you think is important to talk about? Do you want to talk about insurance?
No.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm going to mention about insurance is that it's not just a Canadian issue. It is. The United States is having the same issue. Seeing insurance increases between 10% to 100% in the U.S. I think it's a very difficult time for the insurance companies right now. And I will say that our broker, Magnus, works really, really hard and diligently at trying to get the best for our members. And I will tell you without a doubt that she does that. She responds to my emails at 9:30 at night, on Saturdays, on Sundays, and she really doesn't like it when she can't help a member. She feels it. She's a private pilot herself. She's a member of COPA herself. So she does understand, unfortunately, there will never be a one-size-fits-all insurance program. Those don't exist anywhere in the world. We continue to, and with Magnus, continue to evaluate to make sure that we do have the best program to include the most people. Because, again, strength in numbers, the more people we can insure in our program, the better it is, the better rates that we can get. but insurance is not just based on you personally, right? It's insurance. Aviation insurance is based on the whole. So if there are many float plane accidents in 1 year, that has taken up a lot of the resources out of that, the COPA bucket. Well, you can rest assured that the rest of the float plane pilots are going to be paying for it for years to come to refill that bucket, because that's where they're assessing the risk in float flying that year, and so that's where the increase is going to happen. And so that's a little bit on how they're assessing risks, and that is the biggest reason for starting the safety program. So the safety program will address a lot of issues that were brought to us by the insurance company. And we are hoping that by having our members attend as many as they can, there's a huge prize at the end of the year. The more seminars you attend, the more entries you get into the draw for the final prize. And I'm telling you, it's a good prize. We're not divulging what it is just yet. We got to keep the build up going. The more seminars you attend, the more entries that you get, and the safer, everybody can benefit from honing in on their skills, from learning something new. We're not know-alls and be-alls. There's always something new to learn, and especially right now when many of us haven't been able to go out and fly because of the health restrictions that have been put in place in many parts of the country. So we're hoping that this will help. Actually, we know that this will help. So
yeah, it's great. Yeah, so that's every month this year. There's going to be a safety seminar online, and people can find that on the COPA website. More information.
Yeah, and it's not just going to be this year. It's going to be next year. It's going to be the year after. This is an ongoing program, and we will be having seminars, not always hosted by COPA National. We do want to get the COPA flights involved in preparing some of these for national distribution. So, the vision is to have COPA Flight take over the webinar and host a safety seminar for the rest of the country. And that way we get to know a little bit about the COPA Flight that you may, if you're in BC, you don't necessarily know the people from the East Coast. And so it becomes a little bit more, mixing the country together and getting to know the different COPA flights. And so having them be the host of these seminars is something that's in the plans.
Oh, that's great. And those are available to COPA members and non-COPA members too, which is great.
So the seminar itself on the day is available to all of general aviation. We think that, advertising or advocating safety for the whole of GA is beneficial. And members are the ones who, can view them online afterwards. So it's only available in our members only section for viewing after the seminar. And of course, the big prize at the end of the year is available to a member only.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, I'm sure we'll have you back on this year for regular updates from COPA.
Anytime.
But thank you for joining me today, and hopefully you get out flying and get some time to keep doing that.
Well, thank you very much. Winter I reserve for skiing, and I am in the market for an airplane. I'm looking for either a Cessna 172 or a Cherokee 140, some sort of trainer. So as soon as I get that, I'll definitely start doing some more flying. And but I'm not big on the minus 15 walk around. So
yeah,
I'll start skiing right now, and we'll start flying in the spring.
Nice, awesome. Well, thanks again. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Roy.
Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed getting to know Christine a little better. If you're a COPA member, thank you for helping create Strength in Numbers. If you're not a member, please consider joining. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes at COPA on behalf of all aviators, and it's worth supporting our freedom to fly. And as Christine said, if you have an issue, if you have a problem, if you have a question, reach out to either COPA headquarters or one of your regional directors. Here in BC, you can reach out to me or Kate Klassen. Also, if you're a student pilot, you can get a free 1-year membership. Check out copanational.org for news and membership information and contact info for your directors. And again, if you want to come have some fun with me and other aviators in a beautiful mountain setting this summer, please sign up to the Flying BC mailing list at flyingbc.com, and you'll be the first to know about the Aviation Adventure Camp. I also might pick a few of the first mailing list members to receive a Flying BC patch in the mail too. As always, you can find me on Instagram at Flying British Columbia, Flying BC on Facebook, or by email podcast@flyingbc.com. Thanks for listening, and now you have control.